You are listening to the We Are West Ham podcast with me, Will Pugh, and Tom Edwards. No James Jones this week, bless him. He's written in with a sick note from his wife telling us that he feels like death warmed up the poor guy. So no Jonesy this week. It's a two-man show like it was a couple of weeks ago. When I was off for a week in the hospital. But Tom, absolutely brilliant to have you with us tonight. West Ham United raced into a 3-goal lead against a team from the Midlands and then made it nervy as they clawed 2 back. And if this intro sounds a little bit similar to last week, that's because the exact same thing happened against Leicester as it did against Wolves. What are the chances, Tom? I just can't. You couldn't make it. I know people say that they are classic West Ham, and that phrase, it always annoys me in itself anyway. But it's unbelievable, isn't it? 9 goals scored from 3 games against Arsenal, Wolves, and Leicester. Absolute phenomenal achievement. But to concede 8 and 7, sorry, and I'd obviously win 2 of the games, but only by the odd goal in nervy fashion. It was strange to see it happen exactly the same way again, because it didn't look like it was going to be one of those games for the first 20 minutes or so, did it?
Yeah, we looked like we flew for the first 65 minutes. That's about as good as it's got all season. It really was something to watch. It was a total pleasure, but we all knew something was going to happen. Something weird was going to happen. We were going to make a mistake and getting back in it. But I don't know what's more weird, the fact that West Ham keep doing it, or the fact that we've scored 3 goals in the first half of our last 3 games or whatever it is. 3 goals in the first 60 minutes of the last 3 Premier League games. That rarely happens. So we always want to make it difficult for ourselves, and just thank God this time we held on. We gave ourselves 4.5 minutes this week to hold on, which is about right for West Ham. So thank God we did it though, because what a win that was. What a weekend it gave us. And it just keeps going, doesn't it? Don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, exactly that, mate. I think it feels funny, doesn't it, that we've said that. We've been saying that every week for the last however many weeks. What a win that is. What a win that is. It did feel big against Wolves, but that was the biggest one, wasn't it? Against a team who's above you in the league, in 3rd place. I know it's come out since they were having their troubles during the week, and Maddison, arguably their best player, missing out. Iosi Perez has done okay as well. He might not have started, him and Chowdhury, of course, but certainly Maddison was a big loss for them, not having Soyuncu as well. But you mentioned there, mate, that you thought the first 65 minutes was good. Obviously, Jesse Lingard's 2 goals on 29 and 44 minutes for Jared Bowen got the second half off to a fabulous start with his strike after 48. Kelechi Iheanacho making sure it was a nervy finish for West Ham with his goals on 70, and then the second one in the 91st. Did you mentioned there that the first 65 was as good as you've seen all season? I'd have to disagree, really. I thought it looked like a proper cagey game of 2 teams for the first, well, until Lingard scored the first, basically 2 teams that were more than happy to take a point, thank you very much. Seemed like both had set up fairly defensively, quite a cagey game, and all of a sudden, fortunately, Lingard's goal broke the game wide open, if you like. And it was one of those moments that went in our favour, that it just seemed to be all of those this season. Moments like that seem to be falling our way. Things that are on a knife edge could have gone either way, and West Ham got that stroke of luck again.
You're probably right. It's probably a bit clouded until the goal was. You're right. It was scrappy. If anything, they had more of the game, and I think it took a spell. I don't know if anyone's going to remember it, but about 5 minutes of Mark Noble just forward passes, first touches in tight spaces to get us going. And after that happened, we started to get on the ball when we looked like we had a bit of confidence, and we started to get in. And Masuaku put that cross in down the left-hand side when we turned down. Bowen hit the knee, rolled into the post, slid into the post, sorry. And that sort of set us going. And I think we then found a bit of belief and realized, hey, we can get at this lot. And then after that, there was about, 30, 40 minutes of unbelievable attacking football in terms of on the counter-attack and inviting them on. And you're right, that goal changed it. Because if they were to get that, then they'd sit back and they would have done to us what we did to them. So that was vital. And what a finish that was for the first goal. Everything he touches turns to gold. I know it looks like a bit scrappy and he's hit the floor and it might not be meant, but he's meant every bit of that. He does know exactly what he's doing. He's using the player as a foil to bend it round. And it was just superb, difficult technique. And that changed the game. But I think when I meant 65 minutes, in terms of the injuries we had and the way Noble stepped up yet again and things like that. It was just more surprising than any other performance I've seen this season, considering the magnitude. And I think for me, that's probably the biggest win we've had in terms of pushing for Europe, or actually pushing for something, as opposed to a relegation scrap that I've seen in my life, because that meant a lot to bring them back and to make it a four-horse race now between, sorry, 14 for 2 spots for the Champions League, effectively, by dragging them back in, was a real big result. And hopefully we'll see them maybe tail off in it, and it really could blow things wide open.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, mate. I couldn't agree more. That's such a huge. I said to my dad, and it may be my slightly more pessimistic slant, which I tend to put on all things West Ham, is that I thought, oh, that's 1 foot in the Europa. Because let's be honest, and this isn't me being pessimistic, let's be realistic. The league is still very tight, isn't it? With some outstanding football teams breathing down our necks. I think it's 6 points between us and 8th place or 7th place. And what I think, I just from a realistic point of view on that, really, I think you've got to look at it because we're in 4th, 55 points. And no, sorry, Tottenham it is, who we're 6 points ahead of, who are 7th. And then it's Everton, obviously drawing with Brighton in their last game, although they've played a game less than us, on 48 points. So even if you assume that Everton win that game and move themselves up to 51, they'll leapfrog Tottenham. So Tottenham will be 8th and be 6 points behind us. The 7 games left to play. It is still tight, isn't it? With some good football teams beneath us there. But I did feel that was 1 foot in the Europa League at least, because 4th place is still that golden chalice that we're all striving towards, that we'd all absolutely love to see, of course. But with the teams we've got coming up, you'd think that, or you'd hope certainly, or expect even, that we'd be able to fend off those teams at least 6 points for the rest of the season, because it's unlikely. We've seen what Tottenham played like again at Manchester United with that collapse. It's unlikely that they're going to go on a surge and make up, like win the rest of their games the rest of the season, for example. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. We should all be grateful and looking forward at the top 6. Top 6 is the realistic aim now, and that's what we've got to make sure and ensure happens. Liverpool and Chelsea behind us. Chelsea are playing the best football we have all season at this current moment. Liverpool starting to get those ratty results, which show that they're really trying to hound some people down. No,
I agree. I'm just remembering that Aston Villa, them throwing it away right at the end against Liverpool on the weekend. It was just rubbish. Jacob Ramsey, I think it was, shut the man down, for God's sake. Everyone was absolutely spaffing about what a great goal, but it wasn't.
It wasn't. It was poor defensively, and I think that's what happened this weekend. Was basically sort of it turned the table a bit on its head in the terms of the top 6 seem like they've actually pulled away. I know 6 points is still nothing, but it sort of gave a buffer, and it's sort of a clear line now, where for the last 4-5 weeks, it's looked like anyone from 9th or 8th is in the hunt. And then suddenly this weekend, West Ham, Chelsea, Liverpool all win, and then Everton drop points and Spurs. And it started to look like it's now between us top 6. And it'll be a really tough job to hold off those 2 teams, because the way they're playing and the results they're starting to grind out. And I know Chelsea have a relatively easy run bar the last 3. I think they've got a tough stint, so we could see them start piling on the points, but just got to enjoy it. And like you say, top 6 is really what we should be happy with, but it's hard not to get ahead of ourselves and think, when you look at the table, that maybe, just maybe, this is the year that we upset the elite and do something quite special.
Absolutely, mate. Well, look, to be honest, this was the first week where I thought there's a Champions League wise, there's actually a chance. This is like a chance. Before now, not through pessimism, just through a bit of what I was calling realism at the time. I just thought it's just not likely. You mentioned Chelsea; they're in sparkling form, and I still think they'll be our biggest challenger for that spot. I think Liverpool still look too fallible, but we've got Newcastle away, Chelsea at home, Burnley away, Everton at home, Brighton away, West Brom away, Southampton at home. I mean, out of those games, mate, what we've done this season, unlike in seasons past, we've beaten the teams that we expect, or we are expected to beat on paper. All those old football cliches about weaker teams and you go into games thinking we should win those. Our home record's fantastic. And, there's points to be had there, isn't there? If you could pick a final 7 games of the season for whether we were trying to stay up or get them top 10 or 4th as it is now, you'd you'd pick a lot of those teams, wouldn't you? Burnley, Brighton, Southampton, West Brom, Newcastle. You'd pick those, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. And I think if we were, if Chelsea were in our position right now with a fixture list, the whole media would basically be talking about them as if they've got top four. I know that we've got the easiest run. And then on top of that, we've got a biggest opportunity in the club's history in about 2 weeks' time against Chelsea to beat them and create a potentially a 4-point buffer with five or so, will be 5 games to go, 4-point buffer between us and Chelsea. It is a huge opportunity if we beat Newcastle and then play them at home with the second best home record in the league. Anyone else in our position, people would be really basically talking about them as if they could sew one up very shortly. So we've got to look at it and we've got to genuinely believe in it and believe that it could be us. And I think it will be difficult. I think there'll be different challenges in the next few games, like the Burnleys and the Newcastles and the Brightons and the West Broms. They will sit deep, and we don't have Rice and we don't have his energy, and Antonio can't stretch the defenses like he's been doing all season in those games. So I think it'll be a different challenge. One I'm actually quite nervous for, because I think now we've got respect put on our name from the rest of the league, and people will treat us like a big team coming there, and they'll take a point against us. So last few games, Wolves and Leicester, in respect to them, have both had to open up and ended up going for it because the way we started games. So it's been different types of fixtures. But I just think this next run-in, it's in our hands. And for it to be in our hands with, 7 left is quite something. And just got to believe in it. We just got to believe it might well happen.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Well, look, I think me and you will have plenty of chance to have a chat, just the two of us all night, mate, with no James Jones. Unfortunately, send our best to Jones. He is at home, tucked up in bed with a lemsip, I hope, at the moment. I mean, we haven't had confirmation, Tom. A global pandemic going on. We didn't actually ask James if it's COVID, did we? He just said
it's on everyone's lips, mate. It's the question on everyone's lips.
Perhaps we should text him. I'll tell you what, in the break between part 1 and part 2, we'll text him and just double check that he hasn't actually got COVID. But our thoughts are with Jonesy anyway. He'll be listening, no doubt, with the rest of you on Wednesday morning when the podcast goes live. So just me and Tom tonight. So we better keep some structure to the podcast, Tom, even though we haven't got Jonesy here. So we'll do as we always do, with a little bit of housekeeping. You can follow us on Twitter at @WeAre_West Ham. Had a very nice message from Steve Brooker in the week on Twitter, just apologising to me for his comments last week. No need for that at all, Steve. We're more than happy to take a criticism or a bit of banter here on the We Are West Ham show, and James was absolutely loving your praise, so no problem about that at all. Like I say, you can get in touch, follow us for our content, little videos, polls that we put out. Just keep up to date with everything that's going on with the podcast at @WeAre_West Ham on Twitter. You can follow us and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. You can watch all of these shows recorded live, and of course all the individual segments go up separately as well if you just fancy recapping on one of those or looking back to some of the interviews we've had in the past. We are on Instagram as well if you want to get in touch on there, as a few of you do. And you can email us with whatever you fancy, feedback, just to say hello. Let us know what you're up to at wearewesthampod@gmail.com if you fancy it. And you can buy me and the lads a beer and support the podcast at buymeacoffee.com/wearewestham. Massive thank you to Isaac, Rob, Lisa, Tony and Will, and I can assure you that's not me, who have supported the pod in the last few days over there at buymeacoffee.com/wearewestham. Particularly Isaac, Tom, I believe he's an acquaintance of yours, dug you out in the message and said, I don't know why I'm doing this, because Tom owes me about 25 pints over the years, so Will and James will have to fight between this one.
Yeah, it's like me. He is one of my best mates. Yeah, he's one of the guys I go West Ham with. And soon enough, we were talking the other day after the game, was going to try and see him, but soon enough, he'll be getting those pints back. Don't you worry about that, Isaac.
Good stuff. Well, thanks very much to Isaac for that. What's coming up on the show, Tom? We know what we've got coming up on the show tonight. It's Jack Rosser from the Evening Standard, who was at the game on the weekend, that Leicester game at the London Stadium. Absolutely brilliant game. We'll ask Jack for some in-stadium insight. Spoke to Tom Clark from Football.London last week, so always good to chat to the journalists who are in the stadium, seeing it from that angle that very few of us have been able to this season. So Jack will be on in part 2. The Betway charity bets are in part 3. What a result, Tom. James Jones with the biggest win of the season. We'll go into more detail in that section, but absolutely fantastic news. Delighted for James and for the Dylan Tombides Foundation. My biggest win, was the biggest win earlier in the season, was £1,358. Jonesy has smashed that out the water, so stay tuned for more details on that in part 3. And me and Tom and James will make our selections ahead of the Newcastle game. We'll have the opposition view for ahead of that Newcastle game. What a game that is as well. Newcastle against West Ham at St James's Park on Saturday lunchtime. So we'll have a opposition view for you there. No name that game this week. Of course, we can't play without James. Unconfirmed reports suggesting that the fact he's bottom of the league table with 36 points behind Tom, who's first with 43, and me in 37. Like I say, unconfirmed reports that's why he didn't want to come on the show tonight, because he didn't want to be on the end of an absolute hiding again when he would have been head-to-head against league leader Tom Edwards. The West Ham women, there's been no game since the 5-0 win at Reading. The FA Cup draw has taken place. Chichester City at home, which is Sunday, before an absolutely huge game against Aston Villa in the WSL on Tuesday night. We've got some Gilly Flaherty news as well before we'll wrap up with a brief Fantasy Premier League update. Me and Tom will say goodbye for another week, and no doubt we'll get excited for that European tour potential and the chance of a win at St James's Park. So, Tom, just what was your standout from the end of that Leicester game? Because there was less frustration from my perspective there. It was annoying, and the defensive fragility was a little bit, I was a bit anxious towards the end, especially when Fofana put that header wide right at the death when it was 3-2. Were you frustrated with the goals that Leicester scored, or are you willing to take those on the chin if we're going to go Newcastle in the 90s and just happy to score more goals than the other teams can?
Thing is, I was just happy to get through it because you knew they were going to get in one way or another. I was very frustrated at the time of Masuaku's mistake for that goal. Yep. Not saying he didn't have a brilliant game, he did, but that was a total gift to get him back in the game, and that's the type of stuff that I reckon Moyes is seething, and you can see it full time. That's probably the moment which changed the game and made it so difficult. So I think that was a frustration, but to get through it and to battle hard it and to show that level of grit yet again, to get the job done in a matter of days after the Wolves won in the same fashion is frustration, but there's also positives that we're still getting over the line. And a special mention for Mark Noble. I think he's come in the last 2 weeks and he's stood up yet again for the club when they desperately need him, down to our bare bones. And it was just some performance from him. And I thought he got us going in that match and was everywhere. And just generally, now we're worried about what we'll do without him if he's got this injury. And that's hats off to him and credit to him, because I didn't think we'd get a point with him starting, really. I didn't think we'd look good. I didn't think we'd score goals. And yet again, he's proved it. Yeah.
But you can't, no, I've seen a little bit of this on Twitter where fans having a go at fans who doubted Mark Noble.
Yeah.
But you can't have a go at people for thinking that, because the stats spoke for themselves, didn't you? It was one of your favourites, Tom, wasn't it? I think it was, we hadn't scored with him on the pitch until the game he come in and covered for Declan
when he started
a game ago.
Yeah, that was it. When he started a game, we hadn't actually scored a goal in the Premier League in the games he started, unless he was actually subbed off, and then we'd scored. So, yeah. So, you're right.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Enough of that, though. I'm with everyone else. I think absolutely brilliant that people are calling for him to step up, and he has improved his performances on earlier in the season. And as always, it's absolutely brilliant to see him doing all of that. But look, Tom, what we'll do, we'll speak to Jack, who was in the ground on the weekend. He's been wanting to come on for a couple of weeks, so it's brilliant to have him on the show once again. We'll talk to him in part 2, and if we've got time, me and you will carry on having a chat and breaking down, as you mentioned, one of, if not the biggest win of the season so far. So stay with us. Jack Rosser from the Evening Standard next. He's friend of the show, Jack Rosser from the Evening Standard. Jack, it's great to have you back with us again, mate. I'm very sorry to learn that I'm interrupting you cooking a gourmet meal for your other half, but you're at the game on the weekend, a privilege that not many of us have had this season, but you've been lucky enough to see a lot of West Ham games. What was it like on the weekend against Leicester, first of all?
I mean, it was all plain sailing up to about 65 minutes, wasn't it? And then the nerves start setting in. You know, all of us are in the press box that have got everything written because you're cruising at 3-0 up, and then that gets torn to pieces. And then you can hear Karren Brady, which I don't know if you can hear on TV, but getting a bit nervous and starting to scream a little bit at every kick
God,
and every
words
header.
like what we're hearing from Brady and Jack. These are the insights why we get you on, that you wouldn't be able to hear that on the TV.
Just shrieks, mate. I mean, I think quite a fair few others would be doing exactly the same in that situation if they were in the ground. So I think she's probably, for the first time in a while, representing quite a few West Ham fans with that sort of reaction. It was a bit nervy towards the end.
What did you make of the whole thing then, Jax? I know you weren't able to get to the Wolves game at Molineux the week before, but it's 9 goals for West Ham in 3 games against Arsenal, Leicester and Wolves is fantastic. Conceding 7, not quite as good, but ultimately 7 points out of those games is phenomenal stuff. What did you sort of make of the game and how it went? Do you think, did it look, as me and Tom were saying just now, that the goals are a little bit frustrating? I think we're going to cut Masuaku some slack, because not only has he been out injured for a long time, so his fitness might not be there. Mark Albrighton came on, so he's having to do 90 minutes, which he hasn't done many of those for a long time. What did you make of it in the ground? Did you feel West Ham were comfortable and deserved the winners from a neutral standpoint?
They definitely deserved the win, as I think they have done you could say they deserved the win in all 3, including the Arsenal game, which just completely fell away from them. But I think the way Leicester played in the first half, it was a bit, end to end. No one was really controlling it. And then West Ham just sort of took the initiative, worked out where the space was for them on the break. The pace of Jared Bowen really came off. I was sort of turning around to a couple of colleagues and having a pop at Bowen for being erratic and maybe not able to finish as comfortably. And then he goes and sets one up and then tucks one away. So that's a really big bonus. Obviously without Antonio there, you're going to need someone else to step up alongside Lingard to help out going forward. And Bowen's done that. And it's testament to him, really. He's struggled for goals and then he's got 3 and 3 over the last 3. So I think that sort of sums up the confidence going forward. Obviously, what's happening at the back is a concern. Angelo Ogbonna's
Are you concerned, Jack? That's what I was going to say. Like the defensive fragility, it doesn't feel very sustainable to me. And again, I'm not trying to rain on everyone's parade here or poo-poo things, because I'm delighted and I genuinely do. It's the first, saying to Thomas, the first time I feel like we've got a chance of the Champions League. But defending like that, 7 goals in 3 games doesn't, you're not always going to score 3, are you? So yeah, how do you look at it? Because obviously we're only looking like that when we only look fragile when we're against teams who are going gung-ho. So there's 2 ways of looking at it, I suppose.
The one thing that's alarming is that you've gone from looking so secure all season. A 1-goal lead, you would have almost put your house on this West Ham team to defend that a couple of months ago, wouldn't you? The way they've been playing. Ogbonna's been a massive miss. Dawson has been a good addition and has proved a fantastic signing. But without Ogbonna next to him, he's starting to look a little bit exposed. I think Diop as well has his merits and he's done well, but he's just not as assured and composed as Ogbonna, is he? So he's a big miss. Creswell, of course, will be a big miss over the next few weeks if that's how long he's out for. So there's just a bit of imbalance and it's coping with that. They've done it so far, losing Declan as well. Again, it's just all sort of unfortunate timing with taking that composure away. So it is a concern, but like you say, and I think the manager said it afterwards as well, when you're going and scoring quite as freely as they are, it lessens that just a touch, doesn't it?
Jack, one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, that we are so freely scoring is because of Jesse Lingard. And up until this week, I think everyone was presuming he'd have this season and we'd sign him permanently. But it's come out that Madrid, PSG, everyone's watching him suddenly and Arsenal are going to get him. What do you actually think will happen with that whole transfer deal in the summer and that saga? Do you think it will be as easy as West Ham getting done or do you think it's going to be a real complicated one and it will go long into the summer?
I'm not sure how long it will drag on for, but if anyone can get it over the line, then it is going to be a difficult negotiation. Man United aren't the easiest to deal with. They certainly weren't when they were looking to get the loan deal over the line in January. That took a lot of negotiations to and fro. There certainly are other clubs that are looking at Lingard after what he's done at West Ham, I think you'd be daft to expect that there wouldn't be. And of course, Man United will have stuck his valuation up as well. There is a feeling there. Solskjaer's said it on the record, and people behind the scenes have said it as well, that Man United's intention was always for him to go out and get some games and see what happens, and then he'll go back. Whether that's his intention, I think it's starting to come through that if Lingard wants to leave and wants that assured game time, which he's just not going to get at Man United, then he's the one that's going to have to start pushing it. He's had no indication from United on what they want to do, whether they want to loan him again, whether they want to sell him, whether they want to give him a new contract. He's out of contract at the end of next season. So they've got that dilemma that's always there as to whether you cash in or keep hold of a player that's so confident and playing so well. So it's going to be a difficult one. West Ham have definitely got a shout. Whoever gets linked with them, West Ham are well in with a shout. They've got a fantastic case that's been built since he joined, and the relationships he's got at the club are key to that as well. So they're definitely in with a shout when it comes to the summer, and they definitely want to do it. The money's there as well if they need to do it, as long as United aren't too silly with their valuation.
Yeah, well, he was back up in Manchester last night, Jack. He was at the Ivy with Marcus Rashford, so perhaps he'll bring him with him. Perhaps we could do a deal for both of them. But look, I think with 12 months left, even though he's been absolutely phenomenal, realistically, Jack, I mean, correct me if you think I'm wrong, I think that's a 25 million-ish fee there. All right, if all those other teams who are supposedly linked with him actually are serious about it, maybe it drives it up to nearer the 30 million mark, but you're not going to pay that much more money for a man with 12 months left on his contract, I wouldn't have thought. But from his point of view, sorry, go on.
You can't let United get too silly, can you? That's the thing.
No.
25 million's maybe there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Obviously where you finish changes how much.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. That's what I think. He's enjoyed himself so much that if we get European football in any guise, even just the Europa League, I appreciate it's not the glitz and glamour of Champions League, and maybe his performances have warranted a Champions League team, but any other Champions League team, he's not guaranteed the game time, I don't think, certainly in England and maybe abroad. But is he going to want to do that? I just think for a man who's been quite unhappy and so unhappy for so long and completely out of the spotlight, he's obviously loving it, being the main man again, being talked about and just playing good football. I think that all people are so quick in the modern day, because that's what all the stories are always about, transfer fees and wages, etc., etc. He's earning a few quid anyway. I think everyone's undervaluing how important it must be to him to just feel good at the moment, because it's been such a long way off. And if there's a chance, he knows with West Ham, it's a risk-free scenario, isn't it? He knows that he's been happy here for these few months. If they offer him a deal, especially if Declan stays as well, that we can tick all the boxes, can't we? And I think 20 grand here or there, maybe I'm just looking at it through claret and blue tinted spectacles, but do you think that's overly optimistic, that if West Ham can do a deal with United, I feel like he already wants to be here?
There's definitely, that's a big part of it. I don't know, Paris might seem quite attractive compared to Stratford. You never know what people might think, but I think, judging by what's been going on for him,
I think we can be quite safe on that, I think. Yeah.
I think he'd want to stay in the Premier League, and like you said, the fact he's so happy and he gets on with Mark Noble and Declan Rice so well, and if the club can lay out a couple of other transfer plans to him and they seem attractive, then it might all play in quite nicely.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Well, look, Jack, we really appreciate you taking your time out of your evening. Hope to get you on again towards the end of the season. You'll be there in person for the majority of the run-in. So thanks very much for giving us your time tonight. Hope to have you on, like I say, before the end of the season, and we'll hopefully be chatting to you about your plans for West Ham's Champions League camp. So Jack Rosser there from the Evening Standard. Jack in the London Stadium at the weekend, witness it in person, and quite the revelation there. Karren Brady screeching the team on towards the end, just as Jack said, just like the rest of us were at home. I was definitely making a few weird sounds as Leicester pushed for that equaliser towards the end. Tom, just quickly, we'll do the Betway charity bets in a minute. Some absolutely fantastic news on that front. I just want to wrap up some of the Leicester stuff with you. Jack's mentioned it there, about the fragility, and I think he's right. I do, it might be a bit uncharacteristic for me, but I do want to kind of cut the team. And like I mentioned about Masuaku there, I was at the time thinking, oh, what are you doing? But then I thought, well, this is the second 90 minutes he's played in the Premier League for months, and it was only when they threw the fresh legs of Albrighton on that he started looking a bit leggy. So cut him a bit of slack, I think, there. And even the team, are you concerned by the defending, or do you think that because the only time we've conceded those 7 goals, we've been 3-0 up in each one of those games, and when teams are 3-0 up, they throw caution to the wind. They play with reckless abandon and throw everything at it because they've got nothing to lose. And defending against teams in those circumstances is much tougher. Before we'd scored against Leicester, they didn't trouble us really. They looked more than comfortable. You said they had a bit more of the ball, which they did, but it wasn't anything like worrying chances that we had to defend, was there?
No, I'm with you. I don't think there is a problem yet, at least. Yeah, I think it's a concentration thing. I think when you look at it, we've been, like you say, solid throughout. When we've been at it in those 60 minutes, killing it. And then I think that first goal, they've got a leg up both times is a lapse of concentration. And after that, it's just must be pretty nerve-wracking. We're up fighting for 4th. We realise what's happening, and the team drops back 10 yards. And you can see Moyes, Nolan, everyone. It's not a back 4 problem. It's not individual errors. It's team mentality, and it's the lot of them who are at fault for it. And I think that's the overriding thing. And it's just got to hope that these games are getting them out early, and the later we get, maybe that we've gone through the period where they doubt themselves in games. And I think Souček came out today and said that we've just got to be brave, and we've got to stop being safe, and we've got to kill games off. And maybe the
3-0 is there. That's pretty killed, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. I think he was basically saying for 90 minutes, we've got to be at it. And I think it ultimately is just a concentration thing. And then suddenly, when the first goes in, memories of Arsenal, and they drop back. So with Ogbonna back, with a few more changes in, hopefully now no one else wants to go for a heart attack. So maybe that they will wake up this week and we won't have that scenario.
Yeah, I know what you mean, mate. But then we'd feel like that if we were only 1-0 up, wouldn't we, towards the end? So I think I'd rather see us score 3. The one thing I will mention, mate, and I proper had it, not just with VAR, because everyone slams VAR as if that's the problem with all these things. I think the majority of the problems, if you ask me, are the rules themselves and the referee's interpretation of these things. VAR is just the vehicle through which they're viewed, isn't it? That's just a lens and a screen. Yeah. That's what VAR is. But the Lingard goal where Bowen gets down the right and slots it across for him, I didn't even cheer. And we've just gone 2-0 up against the 3rd place team in a race for the Champions League. And I sat on the sofa and I almost sniggered at my dad, my dad sort of went, hey. And even his was like, it was measured. And I just said, oh, no, that was offside, wasn't it? And he was like, I did look it, didn't it? And it's like, hang on. And you're waiting. And then the VAR bit comes. And obviously I was delighted when it wasn't offside. But it's like, oh, blimey, man. Like, is this what it's come to? Like, we've just scored and gone 2-0 up against Leicester City, who are 3rd. It looks like we might make the Champions League, and I'm not losing my mind cheering at that. It was a bit of a strange one. Yeah, but I do think, I mean, I don't know about you. I've not, West Ham aside, football as a whole, I've not enjoyed watching the Premier League less ever in my life, I don't think, than this season. Man United, Tottenham. I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent here, mate, but Man United, Tottenham, that's goal getting disallowed for that thing with Heung-min Son when he's trying to foul McTominay, just the whole thing. But I do just think it's odd. West Ham, back to West Ham again. It's just, it makes me laugh a bit. It's a bit odd and funny how we only look defensively fragile when we're actually trying to defend. When we're going for teams, we look pretty good. Just one thing I think we do have to mention on that Leicester thing there, Tom. Lucas Fabianski. Yep. Outstanding. I mean, what a save that was. The one where he stretched. I think it was Ricardo Pereira who was through on goal. Full stretch. And I don't know, I'm sure you think you agree, he's definitely going under the radar this season. And I think I haven't felt as comfortable with the man between the sticks since peak Adrian, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's even way better than that. I think he had a lull in form to me. I was getting a bit worried around back end of last year and midway through it when he had the injuries and stuff. I didn't think he was quite at it. this season, he's gone under the radar throughout. He's been brilliant. He's made key stops at very pivotal times. I remember Aston Villa game at home. We made a big save in that game, a few against Leeds. He's been there when we've needed him. And that one was superb keeping. I did have a worry about him for a couple of months, and now I'm well over that. And the club are talking about Sam Johnson, or I've seen a few rumours of that. And I think our money's better spent elsewhere. I think we can get a few more years out of Fabianski, because he really does look like he's stepping up to the plate for me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we've extended him, haven't we? But yeah, no reason whatsoever. I totally agree. So Tom, I think the best way to sign this up, and we've covered it quite a bit up until now. Jesse Lingard, an absolute class above. Pleasure to watch him play. We've chatted to Jack Rosser there and got his thoughts. He does seem happy at the club. But what I think this summer could, depending what happens. And you know what, if we get Champions League, phenomenal, mind-blowing. If we get into the Europa League, also brilliant, also absolutely spectacular given where we were last season. And I think if we do that, the Europa League or the Champions League, I think from my perspective, this summer could be a pivotal moment. And I think the club could make a huge statement about who we are as a club now, the sort of club we are, by nailing a deal for Jesse Lingard as quickly as possible at the end of the season. And if they can sort out Declan Rice as well, give him a new contract this year, and just say to him, if he does want to go, he might not still, they might be able to sell the project to him if we really look like we're going to push on and achieve something. Give him a new contract as well, make him one of the club's highest earners. He obviously deserves that. It guarantees his value. We've been through all this already. Definitely do that. But what a message, Tom, that will send to not only the fans, but to all the other football clubs. And even if it has been, there are, of course, those fans who are disgruntled with the board, those who want him out, regardless of what they do. I've always been of the stance that I just want what was promised to us fans when we moved from Upton Park, which was an action that hurt me and hurt tens of thousands of others. But what a message that would be if the club were to stick that flag in the ground and say, right, yeah, Lingard's our player. Declan Rice is staying for at least another year. We're going to make a proper crack of it next season. Because what I want going forward is that no one anymore, be it what the wider media, West Ham fans or fans of other teams, look at West Ham United with this high-pitched surprise voice when they go, oh, look where West Ham are in the league. Aren't they doing well? No one was expecting that, blah, blah, blah. Everyone smiles and enjoys all that, but I don't want that chat anymore, Tom. I want everyone to expect West Ham to be in those positions, not for it to be like, it feels like it's a bit of a summer holiday for lots of people at the moment, particularly some fans who just go, buckle up and enjoy the ride. Yeah, absolutely. But this is what I want season in, season out. And I don't necessarily mean Champions League, but I mean in the mixer for 6th or 7th place with 7 games to go, even if we were 8th or 9th now, but just to be in with a shout and for people not to be surprised and for us to give it a real fist in Europe if we get there next season. What do you think of that?
Oh, absolutely. And you have, to be fair to you, always said it's about competing and it's about the results and it's about being a side that we were promised and thousands and millions of West Ham fans were. And I'm on the same stance of you. We shouldn't be grateful for this. We by no means should be grateful. We should enjoy it and be delighted with what Moyes and our team has done. But Moyes was they didn't think Moyes was going to do this. Moyes was a lucky charm. They thought Moyes would keep us down the bottom and just manage to salvage us, keep us up and keep us ticking along. He's gone over and above. And now we're in a position where we've got to do the opposite of what we did after 2015-16, where we did it on the cheap. We signed Faguli, we signed Edmilson Fernandez, we signed geezers no one had heard about in the world other than Faguli, decent, but on a free transfer at the end of his career, doesn't care. We need to do what you said, sign Jesse Lingard, use this as a pivot season where it's like that is the end of that mediocrity rubbish. We're going to spend money. We've got a 60,000 seater with fans coming back this season, Champions League or Europa League, and we've got to make a fist of it. We've got to get squad in and we've got to make and take advantage of this because not often a team like Leicester or West Ham gets in the top 6. So when you get there, you've got to cement yourselves as one of the better teams. You've got to attract the players whilst you're on top and take advantage of that with Rice, build around him, build around players in Europe and say, look, we've arrived now. Look what Leicester did when they won the Premier League. Fine, they had a bad year the following season, but they went to the quarterfinal of the Champions League. And then after that, they haven't been outside the top 6. They bought those players,
Exactly.
they built and they developed and they've carried on. And that's Leicester City, a club in the Midlands who won nothing before that, a couple of League Cups, and nobody cares about them. And now they are, rightly so, and they deserve to be up in the top 6 year in, year out. And there's no reason why we can't upset the elite. Tottenham are on the way out. They're going to lose Kane. They're going to lose all this. Chelsea have their own problems. They always do. Tuchel won't be there probably in a year or so. So there's an opportunity. And like you say, Lingard will be that. The football he's playing is a joke. There's not many in the world playing better than him at the minute. And he loves it. And he loves being around it. And we'll have a core of English talent with Nobles last season, Declan Rice, Lingard, Bowen, Cresswell, Antonio, on home values that West Ham are brought up on. And we've got a real opportunity to make him the centerpiece of something really exciting. And fingers crossed, this isn't the last year that we're up there. Maybe, like we said, not top 4 every year. That's outlandish and that won't happen. But top 6 and top 7s and being in the cups. So I'm totally with you. And this has got to be the start of something, not the end.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there when you brought up what happened after 15-16. That never in the club's history was there. Well, no, I'm not going to go that hard with it, but never in my lifetime since I started watching football, West Ham in the early 90s, never has there been such a peak of momentum to be taken advantage of at West Ham United as that season, and it all came just crashing down. And I think someone put it quite well recently that it just ended up being coming down like a sandcastle. And I didn't think we'd get another a period of momentum or like we had then, but this is damn close, isn't it? It's not the same because the stadium move excitement has gone. Everyone knows what the state, but it's in a weird way, it is like the stadium move again because there's been no fans. Fans are excited to get back to the London Stadium, aren't they? No one's been there for a year.
The first time. You're right.
Yeah,
for the first time, probably.
Other than when we moved there, when people wanted to check it out and see what it was like. People are desperate to get back in the London Stadium at the moment, and they want to see the team again.
It's not built around a mercenary either. It's not built around one player, a mercenary who would be there for 1 or 2 years. We've got longevity there. We've got people we brought through ourselves there, and there's a real chance to grow it. And I'm absolutely with you, mate.
Definitely, Tom. I think, and the onus is on the club now, and the owners to grasp that nettle and grasp and go with it and run with this momentum this time. Learn from the mistakes in the past. They've seen the kickback from fans. I don't care what you say. I know there are fans, lots of them, who won't forgive Gold, Sullivan and Brady anymore. And okay, I can't argue with people who say that, and I don't either. I understand that totally. But what I've always wanted is my football club to deliver the promise, their half of the promise they made with the fans, the match going fans, when the move was made. And this is their chance. For me, I'm not forget about it and wipe it away forever, but it will go away to absolving a lot of the stuff that's gone before. Even if it took a little bit of a long time, you can still be a bit grumbly about that. But if we take advantage of this, Tom, and these are the sort of seasons we're having year in, year out, that's the football club that I want and that we were promised. So I think this is the summer to do it. And then I think after this, mate, if none of that is done and we don't take advantage and it goes and it reverts back to the half-arsing it, the bargain basement signings, using COVID as an excuse, all that sort of stuff, then all of these people who, have a go at the naysayers at West Ham and the so-called negative fans and all that sort of thing, no one can ever have a go at people like that again. If this opportunity that we're going to have this summer isn't taken by the club, then no one can criticize anyone who complains about them in future. Do you think?
Absolutely, 100%. This is luck anyway. The reason, not luck from the playing staff and Moyes and from within, the people who go out there and do it on the pitch, but from above, I personally think this is luck. I think they may have wanted Moyes to do this in the future. Absolutely not now, and they probably didn't think we were ready. And now they've got this opportunity, and they basically got, I know Lingard's not be all and end all, but he's a large part of it, and a lot of eyes will be on what happens with that transfer. If that doesn't happen, you just know tongues are wagging, and people are really going to struggle to forgive them anyway, because it just seems like such an obvious one unless he goes to PSG or Madrid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But no one else. He can't lose into a rival. We can't let United sit him on the
Arsenal.
bench.
I mean, he's not going to go there. United won't do business with Arsenal.
Exactly, and it's just. But you're right. This is the year where like I didn't think this chance would come. I thought maybe in the next 10 years we might get to a final or a semi and have a day out at Wembley and have a right laugh. But to be up there in Europe and to do a sustainable team for 38 games in a season, I didn't think we'd be able to build one with the way we were going about our business. So this is it, and this is a year in, and soon time will tell. And thank God, for many reasons, we're getting to the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Get rid of Anderson as well. That's give Declan Rice all of his money, 140 grand a week. Well, it is. Well, David Moyes doesn't like him.
Give him whatever he wants.
Yeah, you use that money for Declan and Lingard, but I feel good about it. After that, the win at Leicester, Tom, I've really started to believe and hope. So happy days. Look, I enjoyed that. Some great stuff from Jack there. Lovely having a chat, just the two of us. Nothing against Jonesy, of course. Mrs. Dulcet tones over the radio or the podcast as we are now, but.